Thank you all for joining us today, and thank you to all the participants and our special guest that I will introduce in a while. Today we're here because, as you may know, the Milan Design Week was postponed and then cancelled for this year due to COVID-19. But a month ago, we received a call from the organizers of Isola Design District telling us they would organize a special event totally online. We've been doing these SuperDistrict meetups during the lockdown to see new faces and get to know each other during that uneasy moment. And so when asked by Isola to participate, we said, okay, why not? We bring a special edition of SuperDistrict. So thanks to the guys at Isola for the invitations and who we are. We are District, a creative platform that gives opportunities such as events, open calls, jobs, workshops to designers and companies. We are based in Italy, and here I'm Hassan, and here there is Maria Francesca,
Hi,
and we also have Marta somewhere. This week we'll have 11 studios from all over the world. The format is very simple. We'll have an exchange with a different studio each time from a different design discipline. So it's a time for exchange. So please don't be shy and let's enjoy. I'm gonna tell you a little rules, few rules. If you have any questions, please book yourself through the chat so we can give you the microphone and so you can ask directly your questions. Before any questions, do introduce yourself, of course, so we know what's your background. And here we go. Today, we have with us Yena, Miss Bubble, and Marco, Dr. Trouble, from Plastique Fantastique, another collective based in Berlin, specialized in urban installations. So guys, thanks to be with us, and I'll stop talking. It's your turn. And cheers.
Cheers to all of you.
So thanks for the invitation, and we are going to talk with you about our previous works and introduce you to our new works after COVID-19. What it changed our work environment and our theme of what we are working on. So Marco will tell you about what we have been doing.
Okay, so I'm Marco. I'm living in Berlin since many years, and I'm a very bad talker. So that's why I always need to have some images and videos with me to take you through this journey that is telling a story about Berlin, first of all. So I need to show you some images, and that's why we should
Maria, can
share
you show?
Sorry, yes.
Yeah, that's it.
No, here.
Okay, so now let's see if we can do something out of it. Enjoy it. Oh, wait a second, please.
Don't worry.
Yeah, no problem. Here we are drinking.
You're drinking too? So, can you see the keynote file?
Yes.
Yes.
No, maybe like this is better, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
And I also have some videos. I don't know if you can see them in real time.
Yeah.
I'll go get my beer.
So Yena gets her beer as well. So this is a Zeppelin that we had in New York City in the 20s. But the story that I want to tell you is not that old. The story is starting in Berlin in the 90s. So I moved to Berlin in 91. And that was a time where you can imagine that you have a state, the German Democratic Republic, that is collapsed. And West Germany has to take the control over the country. And it's not that easy because all the infrastructure has to be rebuilt. And this is a process that takes a couple of years, and there are a couple of years of pure anarchy. So in this time, it was easier to squat a house that rented because you didn't know where to rent it, because all the owners everybody had to find out who were the old owner, because everything was belonging to the state. So the state is not there anymore. And in this transition time, the city is empty. and you can imagine the city as a playground. And this playground, you start to think that whatever you may do is always lasting a temporary, it's only lasting a temporary lapse of time. And this is the apartment where I moved in. I was very happy at that time. And you didn't know if you could stay there a week or a couple of years. Everything was just changing very easily. But what is sure is that many things were happening in every of these houses in each of these squads. And most of the time we had these kind of constellations where people were mixing themselves, having strange experiences, offering a mix of clubbing, culture, photos, theater, performances. And this is what happened after a while. I wanted also to offer something like that, something similar to that, to the people I was living with. So I studied architecture at the Technical University of Berlin. And after my study, I could rent this space, which is quite central, next to the river, for something like 350 euros a month. The main problem was that there were no windows, there was no water or electricity, so we had to improvise a bit. And the main problem you had in wintertime where you had to heat this space, because we didn't have money enough to heat 2,000 square meters in a factory without windows. So what happened is that we started to make a bar as first step, and then we realized that the easiest way to have some spaces to be hidden was to create some bubbles inside it that were inflated with hot air, with a hot air blower. This club, which became a club, a techno club, was called Deli an der Schienenbrücke, and it was the start of our experience with the bubbles. First, they were inside this space, and after a while, you got curious to understand what happened if you take this kind of installation outdoor on a public road. And this was possible after a while because 2000 came in, and with 2000, we had the low-cost airlines that allowed us to fly through Europe with a bag with a bubble and another bag with a ventilator. So we started in this way 20 years ago, more or less. After having different installation with these EasyJet fly chances, we thought that it's interesting not so much having a bubble in the middle of nowhere, but having a communication between what you create and what is around. In this way, you change the perception of the existing city and of your own project, because you never know what is going to happen when you realize it, since the circumstances change the plan you're doing on your stupid computer. So you place it on the street, and then you have all the surroundings working with it. And to do these urban interventions, we had, of course, a lot of references that inspired us. Those guys here are from Vienna. Hausdrucker Co. is their name. They used to work in these fields in the late 60s. They printed some fingers on some pneumatic tubes, and they placed it out of a house in Vienna. And in this, under this aspect, I did something similar in a workshop and I did in Madrid, 2013. So these fingers are just aiming to the street. And the goal is that to have people inside the fingers as if they would be the nails of it. So it's a hand which is trying to invite the people to visit the university. And it's a playful installation which take inspiration from the previous experiences from Hausdrucker Co. And yeah, that's something like this. So not only the fingers, but a hand with many, many fingers. Each of these fingers is a person, and this person are embracing the other ones. Something similar to this extender topic has been done in Malmö, in a museum, which was under construction. So we had maybe only one finger with a bigger nail coming outside and touching the street and saying, hello, here we are. So people were able to enter the museum and experiencing at least part of it through these transparent windows. We created an environment made out white and transparent material where you always had some windows to check some parts of the architecture, and at the end to lead to a special room where you had real projections of visual artists that are presented in this museum. Moderna Museet is the name of the museum. This was the first draft we gave them that was a little bit more complex, always finger going in and out. But because of the budget, we had to make it a bit more simple. The budget theme is something very vulgar, but it's always part of the reality of the world. So we had to make it simple.
Of course, of course, of course.
I like that much more, but those people from Hausdrucker Co. also did something like this in West Germany in the early 70s. They put a bubble on top of a building of Mies van der Rohe. It's an eater, someone eating something. An architecture that's eating a previous one in order to be digested. We ate in Copenhagen or in Helsinki, we ate a statue in a main crossroad, but we couldn't digest it very well because this statue was very heavy. It was so heavy that it was inside our stomach. But we created an architecture that was only possible by attaching it on existing statue. And inside this bubble, you could have a space for meetings, for concerts, for talks. And it was also the information point of the Design Week of Helsinki. It was looking like this. It is a main spot in Stockman, in downtown Helsinki. And people are always used to go to this crossroad. And suddenly you have this situation where this landmark, this statue of the tree, what? How do you call it?
Tree blacksmith.
Blacksmith, that's it. Suddenly they are not so heavy as they used to be, but they are something like floating over a cloud. This gives another perception of the space where you're used to go every day. And the video show you another time because I want to show you more stuff about the first step that I repeat are just the kind of approach we have with the surroundings.
Great.
The third approach is a piercer. So you make a piercing on something you'll find in your street. This kind of piercing is called Karl Marx bonsai because it's made on Karl Marx Street in Berlino, Köln. And actually just a little simple game of scale. If you build over dimension flower pot, the tree looks like being a bonsai. And the people could be the earth of this tree or this bonsai. And it's always the question about what is public, what is private space? How can you define the border within them, especially when you use a film which is something like 0.2 millimeters. So actually the goal is to break this border. So people that are inside and want to communicate with the ones outside and vice versa. And it's a very simple game to enhance the communication in public space. Through these interventions, we can start to think that actually the public space is our space, then actually it's the same if you are in or outside, that you should play with environments. This was also the first time that we start to apply some special sound speaker on the plastic, which are called contact speakers, so that the plastic itself is vibrating. If you have different of them, you will have a polyphonical sound system, and the bubble itself becomes the speaker. We worked a lot with two Italian guys about that. One is Lorenzo Brusci, the other one is Marco Barotti. Thanks to them, always. Another piercing, of course, is when you put just a golden ring over a building. This is just something very sculptural that is not actually what we used to do, but sometimes we try to do some sculpture in this direction. This was also made in Berlin. And it was custom made for a special building. So you have to measure it and find a way that this ring is just fitting with the building itself. And the same thing, we used it actually another time, as we were invited by the Logroño Concentrico Festival in La Rioja in Spain. And they really wanted to have it, but they said, okay, but it was custom made for another building. They said, let's have a try. So we had to try, and it was not bad. It was worth of a try. The fourth topic, the squeezer, the easiest and the most effective one. It is when you compress something against existing structures, because you squeeze it, in this case, between a street and a bridge. This is a project we did together with Ramlaboa many years ago. It's called the Kitchen Monument. We invited people from the neighborhood to cook inside, and while you're cooking for foreigners, you are forced to get in contact with them. Another piercer is this installation here. We just wanted to test if it is possible to squeeze a bubble between three buildings, and indeed it was working. So the bubble was floating over the people. At the same time, those people could have something like a claustrophobic feeling or a really light one. Depends about the perception you may have of this volume over your head. This installation is called Space Invaders. It's also a quite old installation we did, 2008, I think. But it's so simple and very strong that I want to show it to you. Always talking about squeezing, we had a project in Copenhagen during the Metropolis Festival, 2013. And the interesting thing was that the curator of the festival, Trevor Davis, invited us to search a new path through the city. Since we are not based in Copenhagen, we really don't know much about this place, so we just had to take a bicycle and find a way between the different spots and find 13 different locations to play with. The festival was taking place in August, so we had 13 installations every second day. That means we had a setup and the small element the same day and 1 day of break. And since it was impossible to create the content of each of those stops, we worked together with some local artists and an organization in the city. It was a very simple bubble, which was having a different top depending on the weather, because in August, even in Copenhagen, it can be very hot. So if it is a hot day, we put a mirror part on it. If it is a sunny day, if it is a rainy day, we take the transfer on top. Which is a very good thought. You cannot really release on it because Copenhagen is always changing the weather very easily. So the bubble is a kind of urban tool where to play with the city. And we had something like a meeting of boxing or martial art, something for the kids, some parties in the night with some concerts, or we had a relaxed station for bicycle drivers next to Norebro. In this case, we had a talk about astronomy, since we squeezed the bubble between two climbing walls. or something squeezed under some industrial environments. So we always try to squeeze the bubble to have a different context where to play with existing space. And of course, we had a lot of talks inside them, and even oops, sorry, and even a bubble in the church that I think is not possible to have in Italy, because that's very mad if you put a condom inside the house of God. But in Copenhagen, they're quite open-minded, so we had the chance to do it. People were singing some gospel, and they liked the idea to have something coming inside the house of God.
Marco, can
Yes.
I ask you a question?
Sure.
Seeing all these works, like one of the first questions that always pops to me is with who do you work? Like, who is your client, and why these clients come to you, if they come, of course? But
I don't know. They just write us an email.
Mostly they're like, let's say, curator of a festival or a museum, or organizer of a
festival.
Mostly festivals. So we mostly work in public spaces. So we have mostly to do with some festivals. The weird situation was happening last year, as we got an email from a Greek architect. His name is Stelios Kois, and he asked us, would you like to take part to the next Art Biennale? And you think it's a joke. Not till like in March. So Biennale starting 2 months later. How was it?
I don't know how he found us, I guess through
to the web.
Instagram?
Of course.
Or how he did the internet search and then he found us. And it was, yeah.
So something like this can also happen. So you don't expect to be invited by something like the Biennale like this. But it happened, and we made it real. It was quite stressful, but it was amazing. And it depends. I mean, in this time, I think this next weekend, we should have had an opening in St. Petersburg, where you have, there is a big museum in Moscow, which is called Garage Museum, which is made by Ramkolas. And they're making a smaller one in St. Petersburg, in New Holland Island. And the opening should be late in autumn or winter this year. And they asked us to make a big installation before the museum opens.
Right.
So we were planning to make something very special. Where is the thing? Where can you share?
Yeah.
Here? We wanted to make a big pole.
It could have been the most ambitious project if Corona didn't happen.
Oh.
We are so unlucky that it has been cancelled, but hopefully we still have a hope.
But did they postpone or cancel?
At the moment they cancelled it, but maybe next year find another location or other.
They canceled all the activities for 2020. So we wanted to make a big pole on a lake, because we think that talking about chess is something very universal. So you cannot really risk to offend someone, you know. Even if you're a king or if you're a pawn or if whatever you are, is part of a game.
Of course.
And since Russia really crazy about chess, we wanted to make this project, and it was almost confirmed, but then the Corona came. So, but these people from the museum just came through us through the web. So you get an email mostly, then you have a couple of exchange, and then they invite you to visit their space, and you go there. That's why the photos are with the snow and the ice, because it was in winter. Then you go back, you send them a proposal, then you talk about the proposal.
About the proposal, sorry. Like, what is your usual brief that you receive? Do you receive a brief, or it's just like...
Yeah, sometimes we
up to you.
Yeah, sometimes like really free to do whatsoever. And most of the time they have certain concept and we can develop the concept together. It really depends on the projects and the creators and so on.
For example, in St. Petersburg, they just asked us to make something majestic.
Something big and a very representative.
Can you make something very big? Of course. But in Venice, for example, in Venice, there was already an idea to have. I lost myself again. No, this Chrome. Okay, I'll show it on the website, and who cares? In Venice, there was the idea to make something on the water inside the Venice pavilion.
Yes.
And Stelios Kois, this architect, wanted to place together different artists and play within them. This is something that many people are doing nowadays. So they make a kind of collage. So he used an Italian sculptor, his name is Fabio Viale, to build this briccole. Briccole are these things made of wood that you have in Venice Canal. They are there because you should know where you can go with your boat. But this briccole looks like they look like being natural, but they're made out of marble. And this, the series of those briccole, they give a path in the pavilion. And through this path, we placed our installation, which is floating over the water and is squeezed and changing the direction because of the briccole. So we wanted to offer an experience between air, water, cloudy, blurry Venice, and it's a path, let's say, of 35 meters where people can have a kind of vision about what is an interpretation of the city of Venice.
Right.
And we could work together very well with Stelios Kois to develop this together, and it was an amazing result. It was nice to be at the Biennale. On the other hand, I mean, there are other projects where, yeah.
I have a question also from Valentina that sent it to us, and it's related to the situation right now, because before we were talking about the COVID right now and how the work is changing. Valentina, do you want to ask it directly? Valentina,
wait.
Okay, perfect.
I was on mute, sorry. First of all, hi. I'm Valentina. I'm a digital designer based in Italy, Milan. My question was, after looking at the way you approach your installation, how has changed the way you work in these months during this pandemic, especially as you are approaching urban installation? Now we all know that we are living in a way that we have this social distancing. So what is your answer? And also, after looking at your work, which is the hand, where people are fingers, could it be a solution to this social distancing, as there is plastic film now, which could kill this barrier in the social environment? Yeah.
So as you can probably imagine, since Corona began, we lost all the jobs, since most of our works are in public space. And we had so much time to do nothing, and we saw the news that the doctors are lacking personal protective equipment. And we were thinking maybe we could do something, what we can do actually quite well. And we were thinking, okay, that this bubble that we are making is actually inside the bubble has a positive air pressure, which means the air comes from outside and excessive air goes only toward outside. So it doesn't let the virus coming in. And we thought that it could be maybe perfect for doctors to protect themselves from when they're lacking personal equipment. And we were thinking of this kind of thing. Of course, it was not, nobody asked us to do this kind of thing. but we were from the free will came up with an idea, and we had fun. We just had fun exploring ideas, and it could actually lead to a new perspective or new ideas. It is actually changing our subject even, because we found that actually the inflatable or pneumatic architecture we have been doing had maybe it could become more important than ever, because it could work as a protective space. And we just explored our idea further from this mobile protective space.
Well, more than everything is that the idea is that it's very simple, very basic. In order to have something which is not contaminated, you get the air from above. And above is meant to be a place, let's say on a rooftop, or in a place where there are no people around. So there is no virus, as you can see in this image. So if the air comes from above, what is inside a bubble is secure. And first we made this sketch for the hospitals, and then we made an application for a Berlin, how you call it?
Art
founding. So there was you could enter an application, you can enter a project to get funding from the city of Berlin. So imagine something very special that I'm not talking about. And in this project, which was actually a performance, we had, we planned to have some bubbles on the street where people could only live, and to move between the bubbles, you need to wear an eye sphere, which are these things that we
went all over the world.
Yeah, it was very popular, this video, you know?
It became very popular, but the idea behind it is that we wanted to make a performance for it. So one day, the day afterwards, in Berlin, there was a new rule that you had to wear a mask in front of your mouth. And the day before, we just made this video with a friend of ours, and it became extremely popular. And people even took it very seriously, which is actually not the case. I mean, it is somehow serious, but we are working on it. And because of this, we are having a lot of different approach now to how to perceive each other. When you have to cover your face, how can you make possible that you have a transparent identity? Why do we have problems to wear a mask, while in Asia it's not a problem at all?
Exactly.
And so many themes that are actual.
And as you said, you are a digital artist. I think at this moment, the digitalization of artwork is becoming more important. And maybe you have good ideas for public or installation artists, how we can digitalize then the artwork. I mean, it's not only an online exhibition or a Zoom meeting, but also I was thinking something like you can see it and as if you are touching it, combining whatsoever the latest technology.
Right.
How can you have, how can you touch each other in time of Corona?
Yeah.
With the eye sphere, simple.
You don't need online, you don't need digital.
Chiara had questions. Chiara Leonardi, do you want to ask it directly?
Thank you. Hi, I'm Chiara. Can you see? Yeah, can you hear me? Yes. I'm a strategic designer and I work in Milan. And I'm very interested now into speculative design. So the idea of, imagining scenarios for the future. And I think that your work is very interesting and it's really provoking and can generate a lot of reflection about how we are living right now, or just to experiment our interaction with the space. So I was wondering, what happens after one of your installation? So is it the installation like the final output of your message? Or do you maybe collect all the information regarding the interaction with your installation, maybe share this with someone and you create a discussion about it. So what happens after?
It is still developing. So this, for example, this ice sphere, we are still developing many occasions, let's say. So last week we went to the main square in Berlin. Both of us had the ice sphere and then the tube connected as if we are air sharing. And of course, we are documenting videos and photos, and we have so many other ideas too that we want to explore. And at the end, the form of the, I don't know, presenting could be an exhibition form or performance, let's say, in a certain spot. But we are hoping that, and at the moment, we are just gathering our ideas, inspirations, and making documents.
For us, it's a new field, for example, to work with those ice spheres. But in the past, we've been working a lot with performers. And then you make something very special, like this project here, then basically, sorry. Yeah. Can you see something?
Yes, yes, don't worry.
So for example, we made this project here with for a special spot in the Netherlands, together with a choreographer from Amsterdam, where we really developed the space to have this specific performance together. And you say, okay, it's a very site-specific work that is really thought to take place in this corner of this forest, because we calculated every single tree that is fitting inside. So you have a main part which is really transparent and surrounded by trees, and the other part which is more introverted and touched by tree, like this. So it was really difficult to understand how can it be possible to, where are you? Stop it. How can it be possible to work with this project in other conditions, in other situations, in other context? Also because we love the project so much, so it was difficult for us to rethink it. But at the end, we went to Mexico City to play with some flamenco performers.
Oh, the bubble were burned and so on. Yeah.
So at the end, there was something that, okay, we could experience something always performative, but completely different, and a very different context like that. More interesting is now for us the question what we do with our structure when they get old and they need to get buried. Still, I want to say that we can make something very big, which is still has a weight of, let's say, 70 kilograms. So if you would do it out of wood or textile, environmentally, I don't know if it is a better idea, especially if you travel a lot. And Yena is working a lot on research about how to upcycle what you've been doing till now. And we all hope that you will have good news, that we will have good news very, very soon.
Because I guess it's a debate that you face every time, right?
Because of our name.
Yeah,
yeah, of course.
It's a little bit cynical name, but the people take it sometimes very seriously.
Maria Francesca wanted to ask this question, but she was like, no, let's not make it like uneasy for them about this plastic thing. So, of course, you're aware of this. So you are actually trying to understand how to upcycle, okay?
I mean, I have a question to you. Would you change the name after so many years?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
About that. Shall we change it? But I think you cannot. I mean, all the Google research will collapse for us.
No.
It took a lot of time to...
Of course. There is Mugda with another question here. Mugda?
Mugda, do you want to ask it directly? Yeah. Okay, good.
Yes, please. Thank you. Hi, I'm Mugda. I'm working in spatial design as well. I'm working as an intern for an exhibition design company. And it's really interesting to see such vivid proposals from you. But I have a kind of stupid question, if you may. In my few months of working with the firm, I have kind of realized that there are certain variations to a brief or certain suggestions in terms of graphic treatment. If we present them, then they're very quick to get rejected if it just does not match the exact mentality of the client or their vision. So how do you handle those kind of situations, or how many variations, or how much are you willing to negotiate on your ideas and presentation?
Graphic-wise, you mean? I mean,
yes.
We can say yesterday we had to give an idea or a concept, sketch to one, let's say, a project. But we didn't want to spend so much time on it because we were not sure if we will get it or not. We know what they want and we have a drawing and so on.
It's more a commitment. It's more like an architectural job.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you don't have...
But still you have to compromise the time that you're spending preparing this presentation, and they will like it or not. And we just send it. Sometimes we send like 3 options. Okay, it's 3 options. These are the 3 sketches that if you like one, we can develop it further.
But yeah, but the compromising, it really depends a lot about which is the direction. Of course, we are also not saints. I mean, we can, sometimes we really find a way to have a better compromise when we get a very good compensation for that.
Yeah.
Once in a while, we also do some kind of commercial stuff. And then you try to focus more on the construction and these other aspects. Since you have a much higher budget, you can make still experimentations. Maybe the design is not what is really interesting to you in that point, but you can experience new materials, new technologies, and so on.
I think the main point is that if you really want to do this project or not, first, if you really want to do it, you send 3 options and they say we don't like anything at all, then you send another options until they like your design or concept. But if you don't want to, if you're not so interested in the project, then okay, we send the 3 options. Sometimes, most of the time, they don't answer at all.
Really? Most of the time?
Most of the time,
oh my God.
no answer. Okay, they didn't like our proposal, okay.
Well, not all. Things are getting better. The point is that most of the time is also that we get the requests. We are not searching for them.
Yeah.
It's something new that now we are trying to get some, I don't know, funding from the city of Berlin or making some application for some international projects. It's a different way to go. We've been very lazy till now because you get invited, you know what you get, and then you make a proposal about that. But if you start to think the other way around, that you take care about your foundings. So you get 50% from the city of Berlin, you get 20% from the Goethe Institute, and then you do all the thing down in Paraguay with other foundings, then you can start to think differently. So you take care of the production of your project.
Sure.
Which is different, of course.
Sure.
Okay. Okay. I think they answered now. Okay, guys, thank you so much. Marco, where are you from in Italy? You're
I'm born in Rome.
Okay.
But I moved out as I was 20 years old. As soon as I could, I went out.
Okay.
And I have to tell you something very important. I know very good persons living in Italy, Italian and not Italians. But Italy is the country where we always have problems to get paid.
Yeah.
Every time. We've been working all over the world. All in Italy, you have this really annoying, I call it problem, but it's not. It's something worse than that. It's a strange religion that people think that you have to work for free. And this is not natural.
I think we all know this.
We all know this.
And do something.
It's very sad. I know, it's true. You're right.
To fight it, because it cannot be like this, because then afterward people are moving out of Italy.
Of course.
Sure, there are many problems. Maybe like we can have another conversation about this and how we can save Italy from this perspective as well.
But it should make it political movement, I think. I don't know. Nobody's talking about it, seems like.
No, they do.
They do?
I just want to say that. So I moved as I was 20 years old, and I moved to Berlin, and I'm still there. I try to escape from here, always, but yeah.
Okay.
They always come back.
in some ways they always come back. No, we really hope to see you again in Italy, because the Venice Biennale was amazing, and I know there are these problems, but maybe, I don't know, we will manage some way. I don't know.
We hope that.
Anyway, thank you so much. Thank you all of you for being here. This was the first day, and tomorrow we're gonna have the motion design day. And thank you, Marco and Yena. For me, it was an honor to have you here, because I know you, I follow you since when I was actually an architecture student. So thank you very much. And have a good time and a good evening, all of you.
Ciao.
See you soon.
Thank you.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Ciao, ciao. Bye-bye.
Bye.